felt I had to confiscate your music to just try to understand why one person would buy so many crappy records.
What are you talking about? Those are great records.
No. Dark Side of the Moon is a great record. Okay? Fear of a Black Planet. Doolittle. Houses of the Holy. Great records.
And what's wrong with my records?
Just calling them records is a little bit of a stretch.
Huh, really?
You had one decent album in that whole box, okay? That was Pavement, Slanted and Enchanted.
Well, Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
They're okay. They're all right. They're horrible in concert. Horrible. We bought the triple live album.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to apologize for Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Well, I think you just did. Look, I'm not trying to be a dick here. Okay?
Jack, you don't have to try. Louder Milk, because it comes now.
Welcome back. Mazzy here. It's the Music Stupid number 41. Again, I repeat myself. It's the Music Stupid is based on the genius James Carville's 1992 presidential campaign for President Clinton about it's the economy stupid. So when everything is said and done, it's about the music. Sure, I like good sound, I like good records, nice sounding records, but music comes first, and then you go on and you discuss it. So I have 5 records here that I pulled from my collection that I want to talk about because I love the music. The first, if you saw that intro, they talked about Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and they talked about the live album Prague. I'm not even talking about Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but I do want to get into a Prague. You know, Prague, from my point of view, in 1973, lost his way big time with Tales from a Topographic Ocean. I was into Prague, say, from 69, King Crimson, and actually the first Prague record in that group is actually the first Yes album before King Crimson. And I heard that at KMPX. My buddy and I went to KMPX radio, showed up. There was a DJ named Larry the Lion, and he says, hey, we got these 2 young cats here. We're going to play a record of a new band. And he plays one cut from that first Yes album. I should show that, but I'm not showing it. But it's the first Yes album. Now, remember, the American and the UK version have different covers, cover art. But he played every little thing, the Beatles version. I loved it. So I jumped in, I bought that record, and then King Crimson King, and then Emerson, Lake and Palmer's first album, and so it goes. And then 1973, all went downhill, bloated. However, a Prague band redeemed himself in the 1980s, really kind of merging prog and post-punk. And that is a great trilogy of records by King Crimson, this version of King Crimson. Bill Bruford's here again. So Bill Bruford being on every other prog record ever made, for the most part, from my point of view. I know that's being a little, it's hyperbolic in a way, the way I'm saying that. But this is, there's a trilogy of the blue, the red, and the yellow album with Discipline, The Beat, and something of a 2, 3, whatever it's called, you know. But this is my favorite of the 3. And this is when the band was made up of course, Robert Fripp. It's his band. So I still haven't seen that documentary yet. But Adrian Belew, guitar and lead vocals. I love his vocals on this. He toured also with, didn't he tour with Talking Heads? And of course, Tony Levin, the stick bass and supporting vocals. How cool was that stick bass? I think, from my point of view, I think the first time I saw the stick bass was Tony Levin playing it. And of course, the great drumming of Bill Bruford. This is post-punk prog with a beatnik beat to it. It is so good. I mean, in fact, the opening track, Neil and Jack and me, of course, Neil Cassidy, Jack Kerouac, and me, and then Heartbeat. But I love the vocal style of Adrian Belew on here. And what's really interesting, I think Robert Fripp is one of those guys that, like, I've said this before, like Art Blakey, like John Mayall, like Miles Davis, that brought in different people and some amazing musicians to collaborate with. And I just love this record. It's not long form. I think the longest song maybe 6 minutes, if that. but it's not that long-gated, long-winded. Give me a friggin' break, and every different, key change and beat change, and Bill Bruford, of course, always keeps the beat. One of the best drummers ever, of course. But this is a friggin' great record. King Crimson, The Beat from 1982, I'm thinking. Is that what it says here? 1982 on EG Records. Distributed by Warner Brothers in the United States of America. Now, I don't usually like to show comps, but this comp is extremely special, and this is Donovan's greatest hits. I'm a massive fan of Donovan. I mean, he doesn't get as much love today as he should. To me, he's an original. Obviously, a lot of people thought of him as the British Bob Dylan. Dylan, in a way, mocked him in that documentary when Dylan goes to England. This is a Scottish singer. Started out folk singing. One of his first hits is Colours and Catch the Wind. And then, of course, he had a great version, a great hit version of Universal Soldier written by the non-Indian Canadian Buffy Sainte-Marie. Fantastic song. Whatever you want to say about Buffy Sainte-Marie, that's a friggin' great song. He had a bad luck with his British label Pie Records. There was all these kind of lawsuits, and the records got held up then. And of course, in America, he was on Hickory here, and then of course Epic picked him up. And later on, I'm going to talk about, not in this video, about the great box set, one of the first ever pop box sets he did. That's going to be a separate video. But in 1969, this came out. Now, Dylan is credited, some say, as producing and putting together and recording the first psychedelic pop single ever, and that is Sunshine Superman. Recorded in end of 1965, released in the summer of 66, of course. We got the Beatles in August, Revolver and other bands, and you could quibble about that, but Sunshine Superman was a great friggin' single. Donovan had a lot of great singles, amazing singles and album cuts, produced for the most part during this epic time and by Mickey Most, who worked with Jeff Beck Group as well. Now I'm going to go through this. This is actually a mono pie collection I got from my good late friend Coleman collection, and it's fantastic. But in the American version of this, I believe this is the first time all of these songs were issued a full stereo. But again, we're talking about the music. Sound is important, but this does sound fabulous, this pie version. But I do want to talk about this. There's a naked picture in this. I can't remember if the naked picture of him was on the American version, but he did a series of singles that were not on albums. And what's interesting about this is that 2 songs on here were re-recorded for this version, La Leña and Catch the Wind, because he didn't have the rights to that in the States. This came out in America first and then later in the UK. But Mickey Most went back and did more produced versions. I think in CDs, when CDs came out, they went back and they got the original versions, the more folky version of those songs. But think about all these great songs. Every friggin' song on here is great. Mellow Yellow, a little bit of Paul McCartney, in the background singing on that, like as a kind of a trade-off in Yellow Submarine, I guess, where McCartney or Donovan sang in the chorus on that. Sunshine Superman, aforementioned song that's like pop psychedelia. He did pop psychedelia like no one else did in the 60s. Dylan didn't do it. The Beatles didn't do it in this kind of way. And he had massive hits. I remember getting that 45 of Sunshine Superman, Hurdy-Gurdy Man, Epistle of Dippy, Wear Your Love Like Heaven. In my mind, that is the very first pop song I remember hearing on a TV commercial in the 1960s, the mid-60s, or the 1967, I guess. The whole Summer of Love, Carnaby Street. It might have been Yardley, Makeup, that whole thing. They used that song, Wear Your Love Like Heaven. Great version. And I didn't mind that he sold out a song to a TV commercial. Jennifer Juniper, of course, There Is a Mountain. Great song with that great flute and percussive that a lot of people wouldn't know until the Allman Brothers did Mountain Jam on Eat a Peach, and of course the reissues versions of Live at the Fillmore. Mountain Jam is basically There Is a Mountain, and then Season of the Witch. He recorded Season of the Witch in Hollywood with some basically lounge musicians from clubs, and it's so great. Now, the other claim to fame on this album is the addition of John Paul Jones doing bass and some arrangements from obviously future bass player of Led Zeppelin, and of course Jimmy Page, who was a session musician at the time, plays this amazing, like on his guitar on Sunshine Superman. He does that volume control guitar that comes in and out on every single verse, and of course he plays all over Hurdy Gurdy Man. I mean, it's basically Led Zeppelin, somewhat Led Zeppelin before they're Led Zeppelin, playing with Donovan. And of course, not on this record. Oh, it's later actually, after this came out. That last album with the great hit single Atlantis, and what's the other one? But basically it's Jimmy Page on that as well. No, the Jeff Beck Group on Bar Bar Bajaggle on that album. The Jeff Beck Group. What a great thing. And what's great about him, not only was he a folk singer, a folk artist, but he was a friggin' great pop psychedelic artist and had a lot of jazz influences there. And I'll get into him again because he is still one of my all-time favorites. This great Scottish musician, the great Donovan. And the Greatest Hits album, some may say it's all you need. I need everything he puts out, but doesn't get enough due. So this is that wonderful Pie label, that British Pie label, whatever way you want to spin it. Great record, great mono. That's mono. Now it's something, an album that really bombed. In 1975, this came out. This is the Beau Brummels. These are the original Beau Brummels. In 1975, this is a reunion album. Of course, in 1964, late 1964, they were the answer. America's answer to the Beatles came out of San Francisco. Tom Donahue, the DJ from KYA that started underground radio, the father of underground radio, signed the Beau Brummels, produced by Sly Stone, as in Sly and the Family Stone, and they had a huge hit with Laugh, 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 Laugh. Thought I'd Die. Great single on Autumn Records initially, and it was great. It was huge. Then a couple other singles, and then they kind of split and they fragmented. They did for Warner Brothers a covers record, ill-conceived covers record. They did a song, an album which I showcase here, Bradley's Barn in '68, one of the first country rock records. And then, anyway, they're gone, split up. Sal Valentino starts a band called Stoneground in San Francisco. It's kind of a soulful rock band, massive band, kind of a cool band to see live. I like them live more than I like their records. But 1975, this is produced by Ted Templeton, Lenny Waronker, two A&R producers at Warner Brothers. Of course, Ted Templeton did, so many great records, including Van Halen and one of the great producers at Warner Brothers. He was actually a singer, a member of the band Harper's Bazaar. That kind of light pop, sunshine pop band, feeling groovy. What was great about this, I love this record. Didn't do anything. It sounds so good. They recovered two of their songs. One is, let's see, You Tell Me Why. I think there's one other one. But I remember at this time, we really tried to push this in our store in San Francisco because in our neighborhood, Declan Mulligan was a local Irishman who came to America in the early 60s, and still had the Irish accent. He would come our store, we'd hang out and go drinking with him at the Abbey Tavern and some of the Irish bars in the neighborhood. But we tried to promote this, and it really kind of bombed. This could have been a bigger record. This is a fabulous sounding record. I know, again, the music, the songs are great. It's a little bit of a country rock, folk rock record, not unlike that first Fleetwood Mac record with Buckingham Nicks that had that kind of not the one before Rumors, the self-titled record. I think Keith Olsen produced that. But this is a fabulous sounding record. You can get it cheap. It's got a great, great sound to it. And of course, it opens up with First in Line and Gold Rush are great. It's a mood to this record that is fabulous. So if you see this record, pick it up. If you like my taste, and if you're here, you know my taste, this is a wonderful record. This is a very common record, and this is a record that everybody knows about, or everybody of a certain generation knows about. And what I like about it is that it came out in 1969. There's a little bit of political side to it, and this is the first Chicago Transit Authority album, 1969, on Columbia Records. After this, they shortened the name to Chicago. I understand it was part of a negotiation because of the actual Chicago Transit Authority. How did Buffalo Springfield get to keep their name, considering Buffalo Springfield was a company? I don't know, but they didn't last long, so I guess it doesn't matter. I'm one that feels they did like 3 great albums and they kind of went into this MOR phase. The live one's great, Excessive, that big box set with that poster the size of Cleveland, Ohio. Just was overkill, but nice. I saw them early on. I saw them about 1970 and then 72 at a benefit for George McGovern at the Civic Auditorium in San Francisco. And I saw them also in 71 at Stanford University. But this is an amazing record. I listened to this last night. This is my 2i. If you know what Columbia Records 2i, 6i, 360. This is a 2i, and it sounds so good. Again, music first, but I couldn't believe the sound. I was going to put it on one side. I ended up listening to all 4 sides because the sound is so friggin' good. Of course, this spawned a lot of hits. Only the Beginning. It had Do You Really... Anybody know what time it is? You got Terry Kath. Even Terry Kath's just, 5-6 minutes, free-form guitar. How long is that? 6 minutes and 53 seconds of just guitar alone feedback noise. It's so good on here. I liked it more than I've ever loved it. And their version of I'm a Man, the Spencer Davis Group had a hit, and I remember I used that in an 8mm film I made in high school, my freshman year of high school. And they do a 7-minute 40-second with great percussive woodblock set. Every song on here is great. I said Beginnings, Questions 67 and 68. And side 4, this is where I think I love politics and music. And I know some of the audience there, especially you, says, Mazzy, don't get in the political thing. But, to me, politics and music just really mesh, and I think it's really important. I'm a fan. But they open up with Prologue, August 29th, 1968 on side 4, and go into Someday, August 29th, 1968, which was the riots during the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching. Great, great band. One of the first horn things, and every time I've mentioned this band, I mention another band out of San Francisco, the Sons of Champlin, because that same year, in I think 69, is that album came out, Loosen Up Naturally, which is more soulful jazzy than Chicago, and I love them. The irony is, some years later, into the late 70s, I believe, Bill Champlin from the Sons of Champlin joined Chicago. They're more of an MOR band, but at least the guy's making money. But I just couldn't stand them when they got really kind of sappy. But I love this record, and it holds up today. It's a great recorded record, a great music, great songs, Chicago Transit Authority. And lastly, talk about a band that burned quickly, burned bright. Never mind the Bollocks, this is the Sex Pistols. Here's the Sex Pistols. They were signed and did singles. How many labels were they on? And they got dumped. Finally, Virgin picks them up. This is my original UK copy, blank background. I'm so lucky I have this one. I love this one. This record seems so tame today. I have all the UK singles as well. And I just love this band. I love this record. Of course, God, I should put it in a poly sleeve, shouldn't I? I'll call the police. Quick, somebody. Holiday in the Sun, Liar, No Feelings, God Save the Queen. Oh, Chris Thomas co-produced this. Okay. 17, Anarchy in the UK, Pretty Vacant, EMI. Every song on here is great. Virgin Records. I saw them on their only American tour and the final tour, and then they broke up at Winterland in 78, I think. They were terrible. It was great seeing them. Johnny Rotten like vilified the audience, basically. You can hear recordings online on YouTube probably. I think it was a crime opening up. The San Francisco, the local bands, the local punk bands were actually better than the Sex Pistols. And it's a musical moment that I cherish, even though as a band, musically, they were terrible. But I friggin' love this record. It's a great record. And it's an important record, 1977's. Never mind the bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. That's it. That's enough. Mazzy loves you. It's the Music Stupid. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it.